Okay, guys, welcome to another Funky Marketing show. This is what was supposed to go first, then the intro, but like I'm not in my best shape, obviously, because of some allergies and other stuff. But today I have a great guest, somebody that I've been following for a long time, and one of those guys that we can say are the new guys, young guys that are changing the industry. We're gonna have Vukasin Vukosavljevic here with us. You probably know him from Lemlist. Now he's off to the new challenges. We're gonna talk about how to find creative ways to grow profitable businesses. So join me in welcoming Vuk to the show.
Hey, thanks for the great intro, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, first of all, how are you, my man? What's going on? We had a slight chat, but it was all about me. Now let's hear what's going on with you.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I think whenever this summer and spring, like it's good for me that I don't have any allergy issues, so I can be a bit more chill for the new at this point of time. But whenever this starts, I feel like my laptop is like a guitar, and you just take it wherever you want to go and work. I know it's like a lame poet thing, but it's been great. I think moving to another challenge, I'm connecting the dots piece by piece and getting ready to execute. And yeah, it's been exactly. I guess like I'm living the moment that I want to be living right now, and I'm just taking it one step at a time, brick by brick.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. I feel like you like younger generation just kind of like miss that part that we had like 10 years of civil wars here in Serbia. That basically we couldn't travel, we couldn't connect with people, we didn't have internet at the time. And like basically that's what I go into the youth work to kind of give the opportunity to youngsters that are coming after me to travel and get to know people and do the. And it was actually hard at the time to convince them like you can really travel for free, you can get to know the world and everything. But luckily we are now in a different space, and it's easier than ever to connect with other people.
Yeah, true that. I think anything you want to do, I think you have the resources. Not saying it's easy, it's still hard, but all good things should be. But you have the logistics that don't sound that complex. Like it just you're one message, one move, one idea away from making it happen, I guess. I mean, and ultimately you just like Gary Vee has this wonderful sentence, you get only to play this game once. So why not
Hmm.
play it the way you like?
Yeah, I love that because like one of my favorite songs is once from Liam Gallagher,
Okay.
and it's the same thing. Like you only get to do it. You know, it's kind of the thing. He messed it up, and now he wants to do it again. But reality is you only get to do it once. But I think that today you have more than one opportunity to do things. Maybe not on the same level, maybe not the same industry, in the same realm, but you
Mm.
definitely have more than one chance. Because like agency owners getting completely new teams every year proves that to be true.
No, yeah. I think we come into the position, couple of years ago, the devs had the ultimate power. Like everybody wanted developers. They could literally pick anything they wanted to do, honestly. And I feel like now it's switching towards creators, let's say like managers, people who either do marketing, sales, or even customer support and things, but they do it on a managerial level. I think there's so much opportunity. There's so many good companies. Okay, there's like a good and bad companies. You have to figure out which is which, but the demand side is just wonderful. I think it like I had totally different vision of what marketing would look like when I was at university. And
Yeah.
if I go back to Vuk 10 years ago, it's a completely different conversation, and I like that. I really like because it gives you, like we said, a lot of cool like journeys and adventures to have, and you get to pick like what project you want to join. Obviously, they have to pick you as well, but you have the demand side at least on your side.
No, I think today you have the power. No matter if you are like a potential employee of the company or you're the customer, you have the power, and it's two-way communications. Back in the
Mm,
days, it was just one way. Like they tell you on the TV, buy this stuff, and you don't have a choice. Like you need to buy it.
true that.
And
True that.
today, like if there's a shitty product, you can actually go on social media and tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's not even get into if it's a shitty company. There, it's a completely different level.
Yeah, it's good. It's like money, you know. I guess there's. I'm of the opinion that when you start earning money in your life, money doesn't really change you. It more like exposes exactly who you are, and I think it's the same case here. Like social media, one of the biggest benefits of it is the fact that it's gonna expose everybody, like a yes man of a manager, a micromanager of a boss, toxic culture in a company. Sooner or later, like you can't get 100% transparency, obviously, but a lot of things you can figure out, and I really, really like that aspect of social media.
Yeah, I agree, and I like it, and I see it especially. Like we're living in Serbia, like small country, and you can see that not many people haven't been traveling, and they
Mm.
spend their whole lives in the same environment. And now when the social media is here, you can see who they really are, but they don't understand it. They don't think of themselves as uh, as those people, because everybody around them are the same. And
Yeah,
and I see that also in a marketing, is in the business space, where like the only people that you get to see in the local marketing groups are the same people that are doing stuff up to the some level.
yeah.
But you need to step out of that zone to actually see the bigger picture, see how other people are doing things, developing. And is that what helped you? Because you started as everybody, but like
Mm.
you found your own way.
Yeah, I guess I mean, I had the ultimate pleasure of the first experience I had in marketing was the agency experience, and my first boss was a great, loyal, trusting boss. So nobody had the chance to break me when I was a kid, you
Mm-hmm.
know, even though I still am a bit arrogant to say that you can't break me that way because of the great parents and everything I had as a kid. But to have that kind of a boss who explained that, work shouldn't be comfortable, it should be uncomfortable. That then
Mm-hmm.
you're not in your comfort zone. So whenever I'm giving you feedback that something is shit or not good or whatever word I use, if I do it in a constructive way, which is not offending you, but more like showing you that, hey, you need to apply yourself a bit more here. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? I feel this has instilled in me this feedback culture of and this vibe of if you're using the same strategy over and over and over again, you stay in the same spot. And even though it sounds like a cliche, it's really, really true in marketing. The things are dynamic, they change all the time. You can't just copy paste stuff. And I guess this feeling of let's jump into the pool and see if we can swim or we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
suffocate. Let's see what happens. Like, and that curiosity and never giving up and everything that comes after that, I feel this is super super important for marketing, apart from curiosity or work ethic and everything. But yeah, this is the way I see it. And like I said, I think having good environment so far in the companies I used to work with has helped, I guess, speed that up and get me to the point where I am today.
Yeah, and I think it affects a lot the way you now manage people, and the way you look at the leadership, the management, and the way
Yeah,
you structure the teams.
absolutely, absolutely. I think it's 51% of everything, at least the way I see it. It's your own, you're accountable for it. But then this other half, including what you just said, I think it's super super cool. I can tell you like one additional thing from my boss, like the first boss that I mentioned. I was leaving the agency to join a startup, and a few days before I left, uh, completely improvising, I brought a client from Switzerland. Like, I was a marketer, but I just, some weird actions happened, and I brought a client, and I said, okay, it's a great client, and they used to work for a year together. And Goran rings me like 7 or 8 months after that and he says, "Hey, I have a bonus ready." I'm like, "What bonus?" Like, you remember that client we developed a relationship? I think it's only fair you brought them. I never forgot that, and it's time for me to show you that we appreciate your extra effort in that. So I was like, okay, that's loyalty. Like if your boss treats you like this, and then you also have other people, like the Carlo Ancelottis, Mourinho's of the world, and
Yeah.
everything you kind of like a sponge. You just take good examples of good leadership. Like leadership is a mix of kindness and toughness, I guess. Being tough when you need to be tough, but overall being kind because it's employee first, then your customer,
Yeah.
or
Agree.
better say
Agree.
colleague first, not employee first.
Yeah, yeah, employees are, like I used to say, like team members or something like that,
I mean, I
or
consider
yeah.
myself employee in any case, but obviously, like it's that colleague vibe that you have. Like, even though if you're my boss or I'm your boss or we're just on the same level, that type of relationship, you can never call it family because it's not your
Mm-hmm.
own family, but it can be one step below. It still have some good aspects of that family vibe. That hey, it's okay to make a mistake. Like, I'm not gonna be a professor. Like immediately after you make a mistake, you see, like you should have done this. Like I think for 30% of successes I have, there's 70% of failures. Just what I'm most interested in is how you react after you make a mistake. Are you,
Mm-hmm.
looking for the reasons why it failed, or are you trying to figure out what can I do so that I don't repeat that mistake next time, or asking questions and going back to that feeling of being uncomfortable. So those are some of the things I think at the macro level are key for a team leader to clearly explain stuff, to bring people who share the passion and the work ethic and curiosity, and then support them. Leadership is support, and team leading a team is support. And mixing this kindness with toughness is what I'm trying to do. And you never master it really. You just
Yeah.
keep learning until, unfortunately, one day you die or at least retire.
Yeah, that's well said. I don't think we're going after retirement, but we'll see. But we just get into the new roles, which are more suited to our future years. Let's call it like that. We're still too young to think about that, but
Mm.
that's how it goes.
Yeah,
So,
but I know one guy. I think he's my really good friend.
uh-huh.
Kind of knows him, and he mentioned that he was 44, 45, something like that, and he sold his company from some special amount, and he said, "Okay, I worked my butt off like to make this happen. Like I gave this company and logo everything. It's time for me to enjoy some offline." And he put like a cover images on all his social, like I'm in my well-deserved offline, disappeared from social, disappeared for like 5 years, and he just traveled, meet different people, culture. Like he didn't do anything, and he didn't spend some, he didn't stay in Bruce Wayne manners and drove
Mm-hmm.
Ferraris and things like that. He just wanted to chill, spend some time with his girlfriend. He doesn't have kids, so it was like two of them just traveling and enjoying and taking a bit time off. So retirement comes in many forms. Is what I'm trying to say. It could be, you know you never know.
Yeah, it can be just change of career or disappearing
Exactly.
from social media.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And usually when you do that, then new ideas comes to life, and you can even change yourself completely.
Yeah,
So
as long
who
as you're
knows?
honest to yourself, like what I really want to do and do I have passion for it, and then amazing stuff happens, I guess. When you're happy has to be the ultimate goal.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, content. I like content more because like happiness is just something that you feel at the moment. But if
Mm.
you are content all the time and just happy from time to time, that's perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
So let me drop you a question. That's how we name actually the episode. So how to find creative ways to grow profitable business? Like this is what you do. This is what you say you do. So where do we start answering that question?
Yeah, I think it starts in a not so creative, I mean, not creative, but not so innovative way. I think first and foremost, after you find something you really want to work for, you have to understand it. Like you have to understand
Hmm.
what's the industry, what's the audience, who are you going to be talking to, how are you going to do market positioning, What's the language, examples, analogies you can leverage in your communication that will help people relate? So you have to be like a Sherlock Holmes in this phase one to get to that creative piece of the story. Then, as the second component is you have to have something of a differentiator within your product, service, something. It doesn't have to be anything revolutionary. You can do things in a simpler way. And differentiation comes in a product, in a service, in a blog article, in a video. There has to be something that makes you different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's like I was once part of a business incubator of some sort in Palo Alto when I was a bit in the United States, and they've showed this graph that never left my brain, which is if you copy everything from scratch, you're gonna position yourself as a copycat, and they're not gonna like you. They might be with you because you're more affordable, but that's more or less it. That's far left. On the far right, you have the absolute innovators. People respect you because you're brave to innovate, but they might not follow. Like if you build something super AI in today's world, you might be a few steps too fast before the
Yeah.
market is ready. And so the ideal spot is in the middle when you say, hey, those two, three things are not being done in the right way. And then you produce something that people like, yeah, this is it, this is exactly what it is. So I think what I'm trying to say is you can't sell the unsellable if you want to be, I guess, in growth marketing or sales. So good research, understanding your positioning and what you bring to the market, and then focusing on those things is the step, I guess, the step number one and step number two. And then later on you figure out a way. Great, now we have differentiators, we understand who's our audience. What do we do? Like we have this amount of resources, we have this amount of people, we can do certain things, we can't do everything, and so you have to figure out what are the most creative, or at least most the I guess the project that have the most potential that you should focus on. So for instance, at Limelight it was Guillaume and me. I was the first employee of Limelight, so Guillaume and me were on the business side, and two tech co-founders were on the dev side. And so we couldn't do YouTube vlog back then. We couldn't do, even though we wanted to do it, we couldn't go on Twitter. We couldn't run every single experiment. So you have to prioritize. And the way to prioritize is, I guess, you have to understand how do we play to win? Like, what do we need to do to accomplish certain goals, and what battle helps us win the war? So we're just going to fight the battles that help win the war, and we're not going to fight battles that might not push the edge. And this is the tough side of marketing, I guess. Anticipating, figuring it out, being a few steps ahead. It's never perfect. Sometimes you make a mistake. Sometimes it's faster than you thought. Sometimes it's slower than you thought. But you have to prioritize, and then you have to allocate resources to it. And once you allocate it, then it's just pure execution and not being too, I guess, you don't froze when something is not going well. You just analyze. Okay, is this going the way we want? You stick with the tasks and commitments that you wanted to do, and you always go back to your scoreboard. Is the task that we're doing today, will this push the needle that we wanted to push in our strategy? And this is, there's always going to be too many ideas and a little room for execution. And so in this your little room of execution, no matter the team size, even the marketing teams of 50 people, they still have more ideas than they have room to execute. So I think you
Mm-hmm.
have to prioritize, execute, and go back to key things that you want to do. And then it's just different goals related to the revenue and goals related to the branding. You need both. Revenue, obviously, it's a no-brainer, and branding because it's another, I guess, defensibility, one of the strongest defensibilities marketing team and the entire company really can generate for a company. So besides a good product, you want to have a good brand because people will then develop this special bond. A prime example of that is Figma. What Figma did was wonderful. Perfect execution with the community-led growth. Or, I mean, I don't want to talk about plumbers, but I think we figured some things out really, really well in a super competitive market. But then you have, the Airtables of the world that manage to do that. So I think this is the way, and then it's just iterating. And once you start growing and you start seeing results, then you start looking for, okay, we found our product market fit, we have traction, we have the numbers. So how do we now scale? And the challenge with scaling is exactly what we discussed before the episode. Okay, bringing the right people at the right place who are able to scale a specific channel, and then scaling it, right?
Yeah, we have a question. We'll answer it right away. But what you said reminded me, and I was googling because my brain is not working while you were talking to find out the answer, and because like it reminded me of what Hannibal did back in the days against the Roman Empire. You know, it's exactly what we are talking about today. You know, he find a differentiator, he find different way he can, which he can conquer the Rome. So he went, you know, across the mountains, the bigger mountains at the time. He was fighting elephants in a different way that he couldn't do before. Like, and he was choosing to fight the battles he can win. So yeah, Amir is always reminding me of an espresso. Here it is. So,
I like Amir.
so yeah, and it reminded me of those things. You know, like if guys, if you want to read it, I guess it's the books the book made of like two parts. Hannibal Ante Portas is the name. There are lots of books about Hannibal, but this one I like because it's a little bit of a myths in it. It's not
Yeah.
only like historic facts. Yeah, it's interesting. And what you said, like I won't repeat, guys. So come back to a few minutes before and listen to everything that Vukasin just said. He just gave you a script how to do things. And those are the things that we are talking about all the time. Like first, you need to know to do the analysis. Do you know who you're going after, who you are communicating with, who are those people? Not only I would say jobs to be done, but also like interest outside of business because it's also people, and it can help you actually differentiate those kind of stuff. I think helps differentiate, and also like what I want to mention is the part when you said like you need to grow a brand and then you need to grow the revenue. And usually when it comes to that part, like it's usually one marketer in the company, usually
Mhm.
somebody who is director of marketing or VP or however do we call it, and it's the person who is like this, like on a cross, like
Yeah.
because like uh investors, if they are investors, then they request you to grow the revenue. On the other hand, you know, as as a marketeer that you need to grow a brand because like that revenue won't continue to grow if you don't have a steady growth in brand. And then like that's where lots of companies are, I think, making mistakes when they are, you know, maybe choosing the wrong thing at the time or not investing, you know, at least just one channel from one side and one channel from this side.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
I
but
want to get your perspective on that. So which channels do you choose and where would you go from that perspective?
yeah, I think it depends. Like the blueprint that we talked about, it's something that's been around for, I think, even at the Hannibal time. I feel you're doing the research and everything, but you really need to do it. This involves like spending a lot of time in front of a laptop, figuring it out, going back. Like it's not super exciting to do it. Like research, I
It's
know little
getting
people who
into the
enjoy.
dirt, right?
Yeah, it's really like doing something. Kobe Bryant has an amazing quote, like I'm gonna do whatever it takes to win. Like, is if that is bringing a cup of water to a teammate, waving the towel at the bench, or shooting the winning 3-pointer. There's a lot of things that needs to be done to win a ring. And it's the same in business, I feel. And the people who are able to push themselves because they have the ultimate motivation, I'm going to grow that revenue, I'm going to build that brand, are usually the people who end up doing it. But to go back, I guess, to your question, I feel you just have to start in tiers. So, for instance, from my practical standpoint, like from my own experience, I mean, Lamlist started with a community. Figma that we
Hmm.
mentioned started with a community, and community can help you bring that revenue and build that brand. Like you can't like expect to build a brand in 3 months, or maybe even in the first year, especially if it's a super competitive space. You have to
At
have
least 2 years
levels.
it takes if you are working on it.
Yeah, so it has to be done in levels. And so, for instance, the first thing, even before I joined Lamlist, so Lamlist was just out, and the first thing that I guess the three co-founders did was Guillaume joined as a volunteer. They didn't have a lot of money back then, and so he joined as a volunteer at the SASTER conference. And being a volunteer, you get a free ticket and you get the
Nice.
list of all people who are coming. It's like a scrappy bootstrapper from the early days. And what he did is, okay, I have a list. Now I'm going to create a campaign. And because Lemlist was an outbound tool, I'm going to use all its differentiators. And nobody back then was doing personalized custom images. And he sent that campaign to all the people who were there to book meetings. And all those meetings were with prospective users, later on clients. And he booked, like, I don't remember, some insane number, like 50, 60 meetings. And then he took that and created an article. And because Lamla's blog was nothing back then, no traffic at all, he posted it on a publication connected with the conference so that he gets maximum exposure, showcasing the campaign, showcasing the results. And they also started building a community. So everybody who was on Product Hunt, everybody who was in AppSumo, everybody who was an early user, they got an invitation to join the community. Later down the road, I joined, and it's then that we said, okay, we are just going to do two things. We have this community and we have content. And so community was mostly for streamlining product feedback, but also talking about outreach. Anybody who had a problem, they could talk about it, ask for advice, etc. And so it's the first branding move. How you answer those questions and how you do this on sport and in the community, it's the first level of brand. People know that you're their consigliere, that you're not going to give them a link to the FAQ, but you're going to help them, boost that reply rate, figure out the problem, etc., etc. And because you don't have a lot of, inquiries and a lot of posts and questions coming in, you allocate a certain amount of time to build those relationships. So that's on the branding side. And so you're slowly starting to build a brand. On the revenue side, we know that we have to obviously do some user acquisition experiments, position our tool where we need to position it. But one thing that was super unclear back then was when you Googled cold email templates or email templates, you tend to get HubSpot articles. And I'm not saying anything against HubSpot, but it was the same type of an article that you felt like a marketer is giving 5 to 10 templates that you feel like they never sent it. So it's like marketing that never did sales, without any proof, without the metrics, and the templates were just too generic. And so the differentiation in terms of content was, okay, let's build templates. And we were using Lemlist to grow our business. So let's share all the templates that were working and that were not working. And right there, you have the perfect growth model. So using your own tool, which obviously for us, it was a bit easy because it was a sales tool. Have a community, you get people in, even the people who are not users immediately, you get them into your infrastructure at the top. And you have content, you're not creating tens and thousands of different silos, just templates. And you get templates ideas from your own, campaign. And when people coming into the community, you start opening a distribution channel. Like you have ways to distribute for free your stuff. And then later on, as the community got bigger, people said, hey, we don't fear sharing our template because nobody's going to steal it, really. Like there's too many components in it. Like there was this, thinking that I don't want to share something because it's proprietary information, but the users starting sharing it. And so we said, okay, the way we're going to do case studies and testimonials is we're going to just showcase fully the user, like their campaign, why did it work, give some actionable advice, and do a little bit of salesy stuff at the bottom. But the primary piece of the case study was not, hey, like Lemlist is awesome, but it was, I'm using Lemlist to achieve this awesome result. And here's my template. And so another content silo opens. And then in the third phase, I was like, okay, lead capturing. Let's create an ebook with Hall of Fame templates to capture more prospects, just with that template silo. And so what I'm trying to say is you can combine this with Figma. Like Figma also started building a community, connecting with the designers and building the product with them. And so this creates this bond. So whenever somebody in Lemlist community was saying, hey, there's like a competitor secretly entering a community and doing some shady work, users will come to us and tell, like, hey, this guy or this girl is pitching us, selling us, or whatever. And I feel this is one of the metrics that you can have to see that you're building relationships with people. Obviously, not everybody's going to like you. You're going to have to deal with some negative or constructive feedback from time to time, but this is the way you can do it in the early phases. So you measure stuff realistically. So the goal has to be challenging, so that it makes you like push and work, but it must not feel impossible. So we're not going to build like a huge brand in a year. It's not going to happen. But we can build 500 or 1,000 true loyal members, like loyal people in the community. We can do that, and
That
that's
will
the thing.
actually help you get to the brand part.
Yeah, and that's how you play to win. Like when you have something that's challenging but not impossible, and and if somebody says, "Hey, let's do a YouTube blog," then you go back and you're like, "Okay, we have to allocate resources, and does this push the needle of getting loyal people and users? It doesn't. Let's not do that."
Yeah, like basically all the things that you said are part of the strategic narrative. And I'm like listening to you, and wondering like, because I already know how little amount of companies are actually a small amount of companies are actually having the strategic narrative, because like I'm
Mhm.
doing that for companies, and when I need to compare with competitors, like they don't have it. uh, and basically you have like the bigger change that is happening, which is people feel more free to talk about the problems, and you gather them inside the community, so they can actually talk with each other about the problems that they are having. It's what Figma did. Also, it's in a way what Jasper did with AI
Mhm.
for writing tool. The same thing. Then you go, the second step is always old way versus the new way, when you are actually showing them some things that are not working through the stats to specific points. The third part is always like the promised land. Where can we go if we work together, if we do something? And the number four is, I think, the one that you talk about the most, and I think most people forget about it, because like it's where we start talking about the features, about how we are different. But also a part of that number four is creating materials, things, stories for our customers, that they can tell our stories even without us involved in it.
Mhm.
And it's where the things start blowing up. That's where we go. And of course, number five is then
Yeah,
showcasing that you can actually do it. And there's
yeah,
somebody already there in the promised land. And when you create a structure like that, it's actually easy to see, what you need to do for each point. Are there some things that you already have? What are some things that you are missing? But somehow we get strictly into that, like I'm just solving a problem. And
yeah.
that's okay, but that's not the big change. That's not the narrative. That's not differentiator.
Yeah, it's like a balance of long-term and short-term things that you need to do. And to Amir's point, I just read one of the things he said. So he thinks that it's
Hmm.
very difficult for marketing because people in leadership do not understand the purpose, and that's one of the definite challenges of every manager. Like you have a boss, and you're not working for engagement; you're working for revenue, which then can be reinvested to build engagement. So I feel when you say, okay, you make a strategy, you feel like, okay, this is something that will bring short-term revenue increases, this is something that we need to do for brand, you agree on a strategy. I think it's key to document it somewhere. So these are the deliverables. We want to go from X to Y by when, and everything is defined. There's deliverable in Notion, Google Doc, whatever you use, and you can always go back. So in a meeting, when somebody's saying, hey, we should do more, it's like, we should, like, I would love to do a YouTube blog, but it's impossible to do it unless we bring somebody. But then you always go back to those deliverables, and this is what we agreed that we're going to do in this quarter, in this year, it doesn't matter. And this just doesn't help us. Like, you have to own marketing. You have to, like, you can, again, like, you can make a mistake, you can make a wrong assumption. Deliverables can be changed if it's based on some valid arguments. Like, it's no problem. But I feel marketers, this is something that was an issue for me when I was younger. Like, you have to own it. Like, you can't make a Google slide and say, hey, we're gonna, go on TikTok just because it has millions and millions of users. No, you have to make a point that we're going to go on TikTok because there's millions of our target audience, and here are the examples. And then you're owning it. And it's the same with metrics. Like, hey, we did this. It was a 10% decrease. Like, if you're my boss and you ask me about the decrease, I'm not owning it. I should be the one saying, hey, there's a 10% decrease. Here's what I'm planning to do about it. Or there's a 10% increase. I've tried everything. Doesn't work. I need help. In both cases, you're owning your work, and then this builds trusts in your boss, who's going to say, hey, I can trust this person, like they are on top of things. Obviously you learn this as you go, but if I was talking to younger myself, I think ownership is key. Like, you have to see the bigger picture, and you just can't switch things. Like, it will feel like playing basketball where the strategy is just shoot it, and you're not gonna win any ring with that strategy. You have to have a plan. You have to have things in motion, and you have to be combination of patience and ambition, I guess.
Love it. Love that. Also, what I think lots of people forget, especially now marketers that reading stuff on LinkedIn and what people are talking about. If you come to the new company with a fresh perspective, you don't change things just today for tomorrow. It's not happening. You need to just probably you need to prove that you understand things and that the ownership believes in you, in your vision, and what you're bringing to the table. So sometimes it means proving to them that what they are doing is not working. Even that, and that's the first part, as we talked about analysis, research, those kind of stuff. And what I see, like, lots of company owners, CEOs, board members had a huge egos, as we marketers do. So
Yep.
like there's a clash of those two, and they wouldn't believe us if we use some facts that are from other companies, but we need to
Mm.
show them on their own example. For example, like, I don't know, the thing that everybody's talking about, like lead generation versus demand generation, those kind of stuff. Like, okay, this is the cost per lead, and they're watching this and they say, it's nice, it's like €5. That's cool per MQL. But if you look at that, like, we need somebody in content to create the content, somebody to do the advertising, salespeople to do the outreach. Then we need budget for the advertising. So actually, it's not that cheap. If you take all those things into consider, but they don't look at it because nobody has ever told them that it includes all those expenses.
Mm.
And sometimes it's going into the dirt, digging out things, checking out CRM, seeing what are some things that you're seeing that maybe they are not seeing, and then proving the point. And then you go and do exactly as you said, creating the goals, the way you are going to reach them, and sticking to that.
Yeah, I think like I was I think in on the family St. Patron's Day in Serbia and everything. When I was a kid, like I was heavily influenced by sports. First and foremost, my dad has this insane high amount of loyalty inside of him, like that he's super loyal. I mean, in work, like he's
Mm-hmm.
never gonna pull one on you, and so he was like a major influence. And then watching football in the older days, at least, you have Zanetti, Maldini, Totti, like all playing for the same club. And I was always thinking, like, is it possible? Because football is cool. Marketing is
Mm-hmm.
not as cool as football. But when you like, I like what I'm planning to do is I'm gonna take every shirt of every company that I work with, frame it as a jersey, because I think you have to develop a bit of a bond with that
Love it.
company logo. Obviously, it depends on a lot of different factors. You have to have like a good boss. There needs to be a good culture. But if the most important things are in place, you have to develop some certain, you know, love for that. Like, you don't have to kiss it, like, or anything crazy like that. But you have to, when there's a problem, you have to be motivated. Hey, this is my house. Like, I'm putting that fire down. Like, even if it's not in your job description, and as long as the culture is good and salaries are fair, then this love can flourish further. And when some negative thing happens, I think you have to constructively approach it. Like, it should be two-way feedback. Like, I always tell my team, I don't want yes on meetings. When I present something, you should hold me accountable. Like, you should challenge me. Hey, it's not going to work, here's what I think. Like, I like those conversations. Me being a team leader, I'm just a coach. I'm not like one to tell this is a great idea or a bad idea. We together we decide, and I want to hear. I want to have two-way feedback constructively. If you say something bad, like I'm gonna get into your ass about that. But if you do it in a constructive way, where we talk it through, where we try to break an idea, see why it wouldn't work. If we do a post-mortem afterwards and say, hey, I think we should double down on this because apparently it's working, or this is not working. Let's figure it out. Do we have to bring in a consultant if we can't figure it out on our own, or whatever the case? But it's this, I guess, feeling of when you have good culture and a good contract, and it doesn't have to be anything insane, that you're then allowed to build this relationship with the company. And when you find that type of an employee, even if it's not master of their skills, keep it. That's the real unicorn for me. Unicorn businesses, great ambition. Like I'd love to build a unicorn, but unicorn employees are my favorite type of
Love that unicorn employees. That's great. I like the analogy with football because like listening to you, I was like, okay, that's the story of every partisan fan. Like you know, my wife doesn't watch basketball anymore because she cannot stand it because it's always, no matter if you lead 20 points in basketball, like always gonna
unicorn.
go to 1 point on one side or the other, and like then it's the stress and everything, but we are all going through the bad times and coming again to the games. That's what loves for the brand brings in, and like sports is a great analogy to that. I mean, I brought also the analogy from the music world as well.
Yeah,
That's why I mean named the company Funky Marketing and all. Like and what I see as we are talking about differentiation about those things is like when I ask people, can you tell me if your company, if your brand comes through the door right away, how would it look like? And not many companies or people can actually say describe the company, if they come in. I mean, this is the example I use a couple of days ago in Zagreb in a presentation because, like, I started the presentation talking about Marvin Gaye,
okay,
and
I
it
can see that.
was, yeah, it was. He was singing the national anthem in a Coliseum Forum in Los Angeles on the All Star Game in 1983 when he was considered a total failure. He had problems with drugs, with public, with all the things. He didn't even answer the call 3 days before that. Like he wasn't even the first choice. The first choice was Mr. Hello, is it me you're looking for? But
Yeah,
he had only one song, so they didn't choose him. And then like there were players in the center of the court, like Magic Johnson, Pat Riley was the coach, like Patrick Ewing, all those names from some will say the best decade of NBA. But like he just minutes before he came into the court, the music starts, and it was the
mm,
music that was more like "Let's Get It On" the national anthem, and people were
yeah,
like, did they choose the wrong music, maybe the wrong melody? So he just came, he was wearing glasses with still the mark on, and it was stamped backwards. He didn't know, or he didn't care, those that you buy at the entrance of the
yeah,
Colosseum. And he just started to sing in a way that nobody actually has ever sang the national anthem. And
mm,
the audience first was like confused, then they started clapping, then they started cheering, then they started screaming, the players as well. And he just finished, left of the court, and like Magic Johnson from the bench was calling his friend. There's an interview actually saying that, and he told him like, that man just left us speechless. I don't know what we should do on the court in the game to actually beat him,
yeah.
with what he did right now. And I'm saying like that's the feeling I want people have when they interact with Funky Marketing.
Yeah. There should be it's like there should be exactly that. Like we should have fun. We should have conversations that you don't feel like somebody is going to use against you. You can open a beer without being labeled an alcoholic on a company event. Like those things that earlier they were a bit different, I guess.
Yeah,
At least
yeah,
from what I've heard. Obviously, you have to control yourself, and there's component to it, not getting drunk in this particular example, or not saying something to your colleague that's just mean and rude. But I feel culture is one of the most important things. And on the flip side, like feeling challenged, like it shouldn't be easy, but you
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't go to a meeting with your boss feeling fear. You should
Yeah.
feel like disappointment, not disappointment, but maybe motivation in yourself when something is not working. You know that your eyes are showing that you want to get it. Like you just have to figure it out. Like you
Yeah.
want that instead of fear. Like I'm not a fan of, I'm a huge fan of Kobe, but some of the leadership ways of, like, I don't believe in yelling. I believe in, serious faces and the sometimes tough wake up call, but it's never personal. I guess it should be fun, like no fear whatsoever, just motivation, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree. This was awesome. So tell me, now you are just going into the new role, so VP of marketing. Tell us a little bit about it. How is it different from what you were doing before? What's the start look like, and how do you see it overall? I think that's we have like 10-15 minutes to give people a perspective of what does it happen when you get into the role which is VP of marketing.
Yeah, I mean, so I think moving to the HR industry is something that I always wanted, and it's no like a fairy tale. I went through 15-ish interviews before I got my first job, and I remember meeting only two HRs that were great and awesome, and a lot of HRs who were just mediocre. I feel like they were on a level of a high school person working in a restaurant or a coffee place, and then
Mm-hmm.
just not ready for that job. And I feel, besides a CFO, somebody who's leading people and culture is the next most important role that you can have. But to go back to the point, I feel HR industry was something that I really wanted to get in, and I feel, puzzle kind of connected, and the switch was the exactly the challenge that I was looking for. So moving into the new company, I feel, there's this narrative of you're gonna inherit a couple of things. Are you gonna be changing stuff or not? I feel, it starts by connecting with everybody in the team, and asking questions that will help you reveal certain things that you need to know. So, what's the vision? What's the mission? What's the roadmap? What are we going to do? Where are we at? What's working? What's not? Every report, like I'm a bookworm for these things. Instead, we're just looking through things. How can marketing help support? How can marketing help sales? How can marketing help you? What are the some career ambitions of the current team members? How do they see themselves? What were the current problems? What do you feel like needs to be solved? What would you do if you were me? I like that question. And if Bree from Lemlist is listening to this podcast, I know she laughs like crazy when I ask her, if you were head of growth, like what would you do? But uh, connecting the dots, I feel one of the first things that I've been doing in the past 3 weeks since I started is connecting the dots and then shaping the strategy. The cool thing about skillful communications companies that they have B2C and B2B products. They are another bootstrap profitable company. So I'm just looking to, okay, with the B2C stuff that's already been out there for a few years, what can we do next? Like, how do we scale more? And for B2B, that's only at the beginning, relatively speaking, it's a different thing. So now we have to penetrate the market, we have to do some positioning, we have to tweak a thing or two. There's SMB aspect, there's an enterprise aspect. The marketing is a bit different. Lamlist was primarily focused on SMBs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we did have a lot of like couple of enterprises, but it's different here because some customer verticals are strictly enterprise, and this means outbound, longer sales cycles. It's a different beast of its own. So I feel, connecting the dots, getting all the information, putting the right routines in place, understanding the strategy, understanding what we discussed, like what battles we need to fight that will win the war, how we're going to measure, and setting some goals, building the team. I'm now adding a few missing members to the team. If you know any good social media manager slash marketer, this is one role that's been a bit tough to find. I have other folks in the pipeline, but social media for some reason it's been a bit tricky. And yeah, like after that it's just execution and accountability. Like, okay, now we start working, and we have company growth that we need to track, and we have personal growth of everybody in the team. Let's have them, increase. They can have a little bit of waves, but ultimately we want to have steady growth. We don't need to have explosive growth. We don't have to have limited. We just have to have this nice
Yeah.
steady growth that's profitable, and we're doing the right things. And that's what I'm trying to do. I feel HR industry, I have so much motivation for it that I'm trying to be patient, but I'm super excited to see what we're going to do, what we're made of, what I'm made of in this industry, and see what happens.
Love it. New challenges. Yeah, I'm working with I think with three startups right now from the HR industry. I worked with a few before, and I know how is the industry is changing, and so many things are right now. The old scripts are being erased, the new ones are being written, and it's a nice place to work and to actually grow yourself, because by doing those things, by setting up the new norms, the new standards, and those things. And
Exactly.
I like the motivation. Like, you seem very motivated to dive into the things and really change something.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel connecting with my boss now, Alex. I feel he's also we're similar in a lot of things, and I think this was one of the important reasons when we were thinking when I was thinking about switching, like to have people who understand that, like uh, we want growth in revenue and brand, we want to invest in that, and if we agree on the mission, then that's wonderful. And I feel, motivation, it's something internal and something external. External in a sense, what kind of culture you're going into, and internal, how do you feel about the industry? How do you feel about the audience? There are some people, myself included, that are not passionate about certain industries. Like I can't
Hmm.
imagine myself, even though I applied to Philip Morris when I was a kid because I heard great things about Philip Morris as a company and their culture. But thinking me selling cigarettes, never say never, because again, like I have utmost respect because I know a few people that work there, but it's tough to imagine me being passionate about selling something because I fought with my dad for 15 years for him to quit smoking. So
Yeah,
it would
I'm
be,
I'm similar. Yeah, that's the same story.
or working for, Juventus marketing team because I'm a huge Inter fan. Like there, and I'm just giving like plastic examples, but you have to be a bit passionate. Maybe not at the beginning, but you have to develop certain passion towards that audience. At least in my opinion, to have fun at work. And having fun is also important. Like
Yeah,
you
I
need to
think it's
like it.
extremely important. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what gets the top results.
Yeah, you get excited. Like even like if you and I were to work together, and if one of us is crazy enough to call the other at 2 a.m. because they have some specific super cool thing to say, like I'm probably gonna, or you are probably gonna curse in the first 20 seconds, but then if it's a great idea, we're just gonna be passionately speaking about it. I'm not saying you have to have this habit of working
Yeah,
24/7, but again, an example to show that if you're having fun, I think it comes back to that you really enjoy talking about it. Doesn't feel like work, even though you're getting a salary.
yeah, love that. Amir says great takeaways.
Thanks, man.
But did we miss something? Is there something that we didn't say that you feel like you want to say for everybody listening?
And yeah, I mean, like we mentioned takes me back to the one of my LinkedIn posts from last week. I feel the question you asked early on, like building a brand and growing revenue, like there's many ways to do it. I feel the beauty of marketing is what works for me might not work for you. It depends, and there's different flavors of every channel. Grammarly, the post I mentioned, for me, it's phenomenal. Like this is one of the
Yeah,
best ever growth studies, the way they approached SEO and content. And that's the only company that pop-up is working like crazy that I know of. And so I feel there's so many ways to do it. And I think, having motivation and fun while figuring out what works. And then once you see that, then you're like, okay, great. What do we do next? Like, what do where do we find additional, a couple of things to grow? And maybe, what I'm trying to say is there's plenty of ways to do it. I feel this is the beauty of marketing, and you can't apply the same strategy. I mean, obviously you're going to use content marketing, obviously you're going to use branding, but the way you're going to do it and approach it is always different. And again, what might work for me might not work for you, and that's I find that really beautiful about marketing in general.
Yeah, I was listening to an episode, I think, from Millionaire's Mindset or something like that.
Mm.
Talk with one of the guys from Grammarly, and I'll try to attach it to find it and attach it to the description of the podcast, because I think it will be useful for the people to actually listen to it, because it's like, it's
Brilliant.
the conversation starts like it's a boring industry. You will never expect somebody to do the things that Grammarly did in that space.
Yeah, but everything they did, like from the freemium model to the fact that somebody or a couple of people in the team understood that everybody, and I know that you and I are like sometimes wondering whether this is written with one letter or two letters. And so they understood the intent right at the Google, and then they just created unlimited amounts of content. So affect and effect, how do you spell it? And then if you put this as a query, you will see Grammarly probably in top 3 results. You go to the article and they offer you freemium like a model with, and the pop-up is personalized. They tell
Hmm.
you never make a mistake with affect and effect again, and sign up for free, add it as a Chrome extension, and then the fight to move you to premium starts afterwards. And if you're an existing user, which is another insane amount of respect that I have for that team, is if you're an existing user with you have that extension on, they won't show you the pop-up. They won't,
Hmm.
go through that stuff. So somebody that's really, really approaching marketing with care and understands what the intent is, understands their audience, and they just execute like crazy. And that's great. Like you have Burger King, that's fun for everybody, but Grammarly to me is a hall of fame. Like if there's ever a growth marketing like module at universities, and you have examples, if there's no Grammarly in that book, like I will be really disappointed.
Love that, man. Thanks for the great examples. Thanks for sharing what you guys did at Lamlist. Thanks for sharing what you are about to do with the new company. And like, what I want to say to everybody listening, like, go back to the beginning of the episode. Make sure that you listen again to all those stuff. Make sure that you have pause ready to to stop and go back to some things to listen again. Also, make sure to follow Vuk on social media. I guess LinkedIn is the best way to go, but he's also on other social media channels.
Until I develop my TikTok, which I really need to do. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting, because I was talking with Sarah Milosevic. I don't know, like,
Yeah.
people, if
Yeah,
people know her, but
I do.
she's like a marketer working in Nordeus, the gaming company, and she has developed the TikTok account. I called her to the podcast, and I think
Yeah.
she's the first one that says no, because her TikTok is in Serbian, the podcast is in English.
Mm.
But we'll get there. I mean, I just want somebody that is, developing his TikTok to give me a perspective of how would they develop the company TikTok. Because I'm seeing lots of good examples. There are now great examples. I love also what recently Fine Labs is doing with kind of like
Mm.
um, news reporting view, like have you heard, or how would you do this, or answering questions with a microphone, like using the offline gatherings to create videos, those kind of stuff. That's also good, like then showcasing the team, the culture, those kind of things. But one thing that I know is you need to find the inspiration and good practices outside of your industry, outside of your channel, and then implement them, because that's where the
Yeah.
innovation comes from.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think I'll try to connect you with one or two people who are doing some fun stuff with TikTok and marketing, in marketing. And yeah, shout out to Sarah. I think she's really doing some really really cool stuff on TikTok and in general her Nordo story. I mean, I know her personally, and it's amazing. Like Our I think our region of the world needs more people like that,
Yeah.
hustling in it. And thanks for the invite. Like I'm really happy to join. Honestly, like your podcast. I think you're one of the guys fighting the good battle and from this part of the world. And it was super dope to discuss with you. And I hope everybody who was listening, we brought them some value. They wasn't in vain. And I guess a big hug for everybody.
Yeah, we'll do it again. I can't wait to to invite you again and to share what you are cooking over there.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Okay, guys. As always, keep it funky and regards from me and Vuk.